I had some pretty good instructions, but then they got changed, so I need to rewrite them.
Give any instruction that you need to about how to hold the split on the screen, side-by-side mode.
Yeah, do you guys need for me to tell you how to do on your end? If you have an iPad or an iPhone, just move your finger around on it until you can see both images. Until it says view options and you can see both images, and then you can make it one of the images bigger or smaller. What I have right now is one image is the palette and the other image is my painting. And so just by moving your finger around on your screen, you'll be able to find those two images. If you have a PC, you have to move your cursor to the top of the screen until you see a box that says View Options. Click that box and a menu will pop up and you click on Side-by-Side Mode. At the corner of your screen, choose Speaker View, and you'll see me and you'll also see my palette. So if you put your cursor in between those two images, then you can slide it back and forth to enlarge one or the other of the images, whichever you want. So we've gone through that before, but we hadn't done it for a while. So a review. So there we go. Now I'm going to really quickly review this thing about the structured drawing and the edges. So first thing we have to do in order to get soft edges is we have to moisten it. And I'm going to use, I have white rags and black rags here. I want to use white rags to moisten my painting. I'm going to kind of go through this kind of fast. I'm using my medium rather than Gamsol to moisten it, but just getting this all on here, and the painting is dry, so I can just rub this all on with a rag, get it moistened, the area that I'm going to work. And then I'll use the brush that I like for drawing. It's this brush, good for drawing. And that wet down a little bit. I'll just do this drawing with blue mixed with white. I want something that won't look drastically different from the rest of the painting, so I'm just mixing some white and some blue and a little medium. And I want to draw this thing, so I measure it, bring it over here, and the whole thing, I can't see the entire pot. The pot kind of ends over here, so it goes kind of from here to here. So I'll make a vertical line, basically more or less in the middle of it. See if you can see that. I'll make that a little lighter so you can see it better. We have new lights on here, and we're hoping that it makes things clearer and better color. And if it does, give a good shout out to Scott, because this was his project, making this work better. Okay, so there's my vertical line. Right through where I kind of mark where my flowers will go. And I'll make a horizontal line at the top. There's my top. Make a horizontal line there. And I'll make a horizontal line at the bottom. And I'm measuring to get the top and bottom. I'm just kind of not changing the camera angle because I want to do this quickly so you can get your painting. So there are my measurements for the top and bottom. Now this little pot has a big change in angle right about here, so I put a measurement there. Now I draw the left-hand side. This change of angle is like that at the left-hand side, and it goes like that. And in this case, I really don't need to match the right-hand side because I can't see it, but I do need to know where the ellipse for this bottom of the pot would go. So I'm making a little mark right here. See, I measured Here's where the left-hand side meets the horizontal mark, which is the diameter. Remember that this horizontal mark is the diameter. And I didn't go far enough over, so I'll fix that. So let me show you that. It's so easy to make adjustments. Just wipe it off. It's easier than erasing pencil, which is why I like to do the drawing with a brush. Okay, so here's the ellipse for the bottom of the pot and the ellipse for the little foot of the pot. And I'll make an ellipse for this part and an ellipse for this part. So there are my ellipses. And now I can erase everything that's on the right-hand side because I won't see it. The flowers and stuff are blocking a lot that's on the right-hand side. And I won't be able to see this. Now, does anybody want to make a guess? And you don't have to say it out loud because I have everybody on mute. So try to, mentally at least, make a guess for why we draw all this part that we're not going to wind up seeing and then wipe it off. Just try to answer that question for yourself before I answer it for you. All right. And then the reason is because that's how we make sure that this part you can see is accurate. Otherwise, we'll get it wrong. Because it's just hard to tell. It's really kind of hard to tell. And besides, I need to make some adjustments over here anyway and show more of the pot than I showed when I did my abstract. So there's that. Now, this is all wet, so I'm going to be able to make soft edges. The pot has got a lot of shadow on it, and we have these new lights, so my colors are slightly different from the way they were at first. So I'll make this sort of grayish, bluish violet area for the shaded area of that right-hand pot. I mean that right-hand shadow on it. You see how I'm just kind of adding color until I feel like I might have something I can test, see if I like it. This might be too dark. Yeah, it's darker than I need, so I'll add some more white. A little more red. I want it to be slightly violet blue. I'm making a little test. Yeah, I think that'll work. So now what I'm doing is painting this shadow color right into my flower area. There's going to be a leaf here, but I haven't put that in yet. And this shadow color over here. Okay, that's a cast shadow from those new lights. And I kind of like it, so I'm putting it in. And then there's some cast shadow over here. I get all this shadow color in here. And you see how I'm really not being careful about getting this edge real sharp. Not at this point. We're just keeping the edges soft. And then there's a little bit of kind of shading down in here. I'll get that on there. Now every place where I don't have this grayish blue violet cast shadow, there's a kind of a pinky orange. Now this is a white pot, but I'm describing things to myself as gray, blue, violet, or pinky orange. Here's going to be the color, that pinky orange that I see. You see me mixing it up. There's the pinky orange that I see where there's light. I'll test this and see if it's light enough. It's not, so I'll add a little bit more white. I kind of creep up on the whites because once you've added too much white, it's really hard to go back. You wind up with something chalky. So I'll kind of put this in and test it. I think this might be okay for now because I can put something lighter over it. This goes like that. And then here's this. And then it kind of gradually becomes a little more dull as we turn away. So I might see if I can mix it with my violet. It still wants to be a little pinky, so I'm going to mix it with my violet, add a little pink. and kind of let this. Okay, let me fix that. And mute all of this. All right. So you see how this is a white pot, but I'm really not using white. Doing it this way, staying away from white, will make it possible for you to really show some shine on it if it's a shiny object. The white is going to be for just the shiny area, nothing else. I'm working this pink in down here, and I see a little bit over here, a little darker. So I'm mixing some of the purple in with the pink. The purple is my dark color, so I'll add it when I need to, make it look a little darker. So this is the basic batch of color that I want to use for this white pot. And I'm really letting the edges be soft. Remember what we looked at last week and on the video about how to soften edges if your painting is already dry. I want to soften this transition a lot. And then this line right here, that's a line, pretty defined line in actuality. And I'll get that definition on there. And then this we basically can't see most of this. There are flowers covering most of it. So I'll wipe that off. And then this area over here, that's a dark, dark area over there. So I'll make some real darkness. And you'll see what happens when I add darkness after I've already painted the part that has the structured drawing. You see how this is working? I'm adding darkness in there. I'm painting over this little mark for I'll have shells in here, but this is just a little placeholder for the shells. That just has to do with our abstract. So you see how I'm kind of painting into my drawing a little bit? Painting into it a little bit. That way I get that nice soft edge that I want. And this darkness goes over here a little ways. Now, directly from there, I'm not separating the pot from the flowers. What I'm separating is the darks from the lights. So directly from this dark area right here, I'm going to work on the darks in the flowers. So the flowers, you see how I'm using some cerulean and some ultramarine. I think I'll even throw in a little bit of viridian, and I have this variation here, sort of a dark to light, bluey green to reddish blue combination that I'm mixing up over here on my palette. So I'll start with the darkest one, and this can blend into that dark that's already there. I think that's a little too bright, so I'm going to tone it down with a little bit of this orangey red. That's better. And there's a flower that sticks out here. I'm not painting the flowers yet. I'm still just painting darks and lights. And this is the way to think about all this as you work on your painting. Don't label things, just think, okay, that's darker, that's lighter. See how my brush strokes are going in toward my drawing rather than around it? That's what we studied last week. Now here's another little dark area that comes like this. and a dark area right up here. I'm just following the dark areas around. Now right here, it switches to a green area, so I'll go ahead and make a green. We're there. We're ready to do these greens. I had been waiting until the right time. So here's this green area that comes out like that. I don't want to worry about whether it's a detailed leaf or any of that right now. It's just a green area at this point. And then there's another green area right here. It comes down, and you see how I'm letting it come across where I painted the pot. And it gets a little brighter in the foreground. So I add some yellow. So you see how we're beginning to develop some volume here. Now, I'll go right around this area along the pot while it's wet. I want to show you what I'm doing with that. I have my mid-tone blue and my lighter blue. My mid-tone blue is kind of on there already, but I want to get this lighter blue established where it touches the pot. Let's see here. Test it here. I think actually this lighter blue belongs up here. So I'm still not painting the details of the flowers. I'm still just working on the big shapes and where, in this case, these are spheres. I'm just kind of showing them being spheres and letting the color blend into whatever's around it wherever I can. Now I'll get my mid-tone blue. My mid-tone blue has quite a bit of cerulean in it, a little bit of ultramarine, and it might need some red. I'll see. The mid-tone blue is a very similar value to the shadow area on the flower, on the vase. So I'll let that be a pretty lost edge, just because it doesn't really show up in real life. So might as well let it blend in the painting too. You see how I'm still not painting flowers, I'm just painting big shapes. And this is a little lighter than the one next to it. So I'll get some mid-tone blue in there. This is going to be a sharp edge, and I'll let that be a sharp edge. Now there's a lot of real light blue over here, contrasting with that background. And this is not a sharp edge either. Let me make sure you can see that. It's not a sharp edge, and it's not petals or anything like that. It's just a shape. And it's a shape that's broken up like that. But I'm letting it be a soft edge. And see how it's beginning to develop that way. Now these midtones, mid-tone right in here. And this mid-tone kind of extends on over there like that. Okay, now this area right in here, there's actually a darker area right here. So I'll add some dark blue and a little bit of this red. And more blue. See what I do, I take my first stab at mixing the color, and then if I need to adjust it, I can. A few little areas of darkness right in there. And down in here. And this really does honestly just blend in with the shadow on the pot in this area right over here. Now what will happen when I begin to add details and petals and stuff, this will begin to define a little bit more so that it's not quite blending in with the pot. But if you squint, I mean, when I squint and look at it, you really can't tell the difference between the flower and the pot in this area right here. And that's okay because the focal point is going to be up here. You see how there's a lot of contrast up here. We don't want to get bogged down looking at areas that are not the focal point. So I'll define this a little bit more when I get to doing the details, but for now it's okay that it just blends in. Now there's one little bit of a change I want to do down there. I'll get a clean brush because I do want to push, come on, there we go. I do want to push some of this light up a little further than I have it. So I'll do that. Push it. And you see how it's really quite orange. That's a desirable thing at this point. And I actually see a little bit of that red reflecting on the lip of this. So there's that. Now I'll really smooth this edge because this is a Boston School painting and it's supposed to look real nice. So I'll get my fan brush. And Teresa, you pay attention to this. I hope you're paying attention to this, Teresa, because you got to this point, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, show you real close.
And I'm listening.
And you're listening. Okay, good. All right. You got to this point on the example that you sent to me. Let me move this up a little bit more. But what you need to do now is take a soft brush, and in this case I'm using a fan brush, and just kind of go along it with your brush, your soft brush. See the difference? That's all you need to do, but you have to do it while it's wet. If your painting has dried, you'll have to reestablish your soft edge. See how that works? Teresa, do you get it?
I see it. So you're,
See, so for my first strokes, I went in like this.
uh-huh.
That was how I got the paint overlapping. But now for these strokes, I'm gently following the edge. Okay?
Okay. So you're just, and not the word dragging, but you're gently feathering down the edge.
Well, feathering was kind of what you were doing first. But
Okay.
this is just following. This is where you do follow that line.
Okay.
That you ordinarily, what we want to do is follow the line to start with. But what you have to do first is do this feathering in the darkness into your light area and then follow the line. And that's
Okay.
how you get that smooth blending. And I'll do that over here. Get that softened. So that's the idea. These are shadows. It'll be more evident that they're shadows when I get more detail in here. But that's the review that I wanted to do for you. So questions, you can unmute yourself and ask me a question and I'll do my best to clarify things for you.
Excuse me, it's Gail here.
Yeah, yeah.
When you moistened your painting to begin with, instead of the Gamsol, you used your other medium. Why?
Gamsol would have been too runny. There's a thing called fat over lean, where at the very beginning of the painting, you want to use something that's very lean, doesn't have very much oil in it, like the Gamsol.
Okay.
As you get further into the painting, you want to use a little bit more oil. And that partly gives you a juicy looking painting, but it also partly preserves the integrity of the painting a little better. So we're far enough into this painting that I didn't want to be just using Gamsol, both because I didn't want it to be runny and because I wanted to preserve the integrity of the painting.
Okay, would that also be the Gamblin solvent-free gel?
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
Whatever you're using for medium is
Okay.
not Gamsol.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, good question. How about some other questions? Okay, all right, now it's going to be time for you all to paint.